I call the regular meeting of the Board of Education, April 1st, 2020 to order. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission statement. We are committed to academic achievement and success for all students in a safe environment. In partnership with families and our community, our mission is to promote confidence, inspire a passion for learning, and prepare our students to become responsible global citizens. And obviously, at this time, we not only advance academics, but your physical and mental wellness in this time of turbulence. I want to say that April is Autism Awareness Month. So many of us have on blue, and April 2nd is Light It Up Blue Day. So wear blue tomorrow for autism awareness. If you could put people in the meeting, put your chat on so that we can take motions and seconds. Do I have a approval of the revised agenda? Do I have a motion? Yes. All right. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, write aye or yes. And I say yes also. Thank you. We have the next item is a presentation of the 2020-2021 instructional budget items, and Eric will be presenting. Take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to be putting my screen up. A copy of the presentation is also under administrative content in board docs if anybody wants to open it up and follow along. Give me 1 second. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, everybody has that? Okay. And you can hear me, so all right. So thank you very much to the board for the opportunity to present the instructional budget, instructional programs, special education, and PPS budget this evening. A very quick shout out, a thank you to so many people who assisted in the development of this budget. Department chairs, administrators, the business office, my colleagues. Thank you to everybody for all of their hard work and combing through hundreds and hundreds of budget codes and budget lines to put this budget together. This budget is a snapshot in time. Actually, it's a snapshot from yesterday afternoon when the reports were printed in WinCap and posted in board docs for the board review. And I say that it's a snapshot in time because there's already a few things in here that have changed from yesterday to today that I'll speak about that are currently different in the WinCap budget than even the reports that were printed and uploaded yesterday. So I will get started. The first series of codes that I'm going to speak about are core programs. Core programs represent the costs associated with providing instruction in language arts, math, science, social studies. These costs include textbooks, supplies, replacement of lost and damaged books, workbooks, manipulatives, dues for publications, calculators, the servicing and replacement of science equipment, and costs associated with maintaining the science labs across the school district. Basically, these are the costs that are associated with educating nearly 7,000 students in the school district. The chart represents what we are proposing in these areas for the 2021 school year. a couple of highlights that I'd like to draw your attention to. You'll notice some fluctuation up and down in each of the lines. As I mentioned before, textbooks are included in this, and the textbook budgets are very fluid on an annual basis because we receive textbook aid, and we get approximately $490,000 to $500,000 worth of textbook aid, and that is dollar for dollar. So every dollar that we spend in textbooks, we receive that in the form of state aid the subsequent school year. So what we do is we look to maximize that state aid, and in order to do that, we calculate on an annual basis where various funds are going to be allocated for in the purchase of textbooks. So for example, last year, the Social Studies Department had a significant textbook purchase at the high school level. This year, that purchase is not being made in the Social Studies Department, so that's the reason why there's a significant reduction. We do have textbook purchases that are going to be happening in the Math Department, which is the reason why that particular line is increasing. So again, in the end, we usually cap our textbook spending at approximately $490,000 or so, district-wide, not just in these department areas. And we want to make sure that we stay underneath that threshold of funds that we get with regards to state aid. Any questions related to that? Okay. So the next series of budget codes are district-wide programs. District-wide programs represents the cost associated with providing instruction in K-12 areas such as health education, art, music, languages other than English, and facts and technology at the middle school and high school, as well as our gifted and talented program. This chart represents the proposed budgets in those areas. The health education budget includes textbooks, CPR workbooks, first aid, Red Cross memberships for the staff, memberships in New York State Professional Health Education Associations, and the elementary textbooks regarding nutrition and health and healthy exercising. The art supplies include the various consumable items that are purchased by the art department for art instruction. The increase in that line this year is the result of some additional technology purchasing that we need to do at the high school. The music costs include instruction with regards to K-12 music programming, also as well as our instrumental music program. The reason why that line is going down is we've had a multi-year replacement plan of a couple of different high cost items across the school district, and that replacement plan is coming to an end. So there's that reduction. Also, we were able to put some keyboards in a music production lab up at the high school, and that purchase is not being made for the following school year. Language other than English is our foreign language program, Spanish, Italian, and French. The increase in that budget line this year is for the purchase of Spanish 1 textbooks at the middle school. The family and consumer science line is cost associated with the purchase of food items and fashion items for our facts program, as well as replacement or repairing of appliances. And that line is relatively flat. The technology line includes costs for our middle school and high school technology program. And finally, the gifted and talented program. This includes supplies for our gifted and talented education program, as well as for our STEAM enrichment classes. It also includes the necessary materials and supplies for other extracurricular programs such as Odyssey the Mind. The increase in that line this year is the result of the upgrading and replacement of a few technology items for the STEAM enrichment classes that are being offered at the elementary level. Any questions related to that?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. So the next series of codes are physical education and athletics. The physical education budget line are costs associated with our K-12 in-district physical education program. It includes the purchasing and maintaining of our physical education equipment. And the interscholastic athletic line includes costs associated with the fees for participation in interscholastic athletics competitions, Section 9 league fees, Orange County Interscholastic Athletic Association fees, travel, maintenance of fitness and training equipment, as well as officiating. And the increase in that budget line this year is due to the inclusion of ice time for the hockey program, which was previously not budgeted within the interscholastic budget. If you look under interscholastic athletics, each of our individual athletic programs are given a line and a code. And previously, the cost of ice time was actually not included within that budget. So we wanted to make sure that that was included in there as a cost for the hockey program. Any questions related to physical education or athletics?
Yes. How do these, Stacy asks, how does being out of school impact these line items for the year?
Basically, this year, some of the expenditures that are normally taken out of these lines are not being paid. For example, officiating fees. There's a fee that we pay on an annual basis for security and officiating at each of our athletic programs. And obviously, not having athletics at this moment in time, we are not currently paying those fees. However, the budget that we have that we're projecting for next year is inclusive of and projecting for a full year's worth of athletics, assuming that we have all athletic competitions for the entire school year.
All right, Stacy, if you have more to say, just turn on your mic and ask.
Okay, so I guess my question to that will be then, if we are not using it for this coming spring season, will we have a surplus that will carry over for next year?
The way that it goes is basically any money that's not spent this year goes into the general fund. And I think Patrick is going to speak a little bit more about that at the end of the presentation with regards to, I mean, that's true for a number of different areas that are happening across the school district.
Okay, Stacy. Suzanne has a question. You can turn on your mic, Suzanne. She asks is there an impact on this year's budget for the purchase of Chromebooks?
That was part of the presentation that was given under Mr. Valles' presentation at the last Board of Education meeting. However, there are some purchasing of Chromebooks that are being made out of the instructional budget. As I mentioned, for example, gifted and talented, that increase that was in G&T, this line right in here, in addition to a couple of like small robots that they use for coding, they also put in for a few Chromebooks in order to be able to do that. So there are some Chromebooks, but not the mass purchase of Chromebooks in our effort to go one-to-one. That's something that comes out of the technology budget.
Bhargav, did you want to add anything to that?
So there is no direct impact of what we are rolling out the Chromebooks as of now. We were planning actually to purchase the summer Chromebooks, and what happened with starting in December, we actually purchased 400 additional Chromebooks right away. So we have the additional Chromebooks now. However, the key would be how many Chromebooks will come back that we are going to loan it out now. So there will be some impact, but it's hard to say that as of now.
I think Dan had a
And
question.
also, how many are damaged?
Dan, can you turn on? You can turn on.
Yeah. I just wanted to know: are we making provisions for next year to increase the total number of devices that we'll have on hand for the next school year in the event that our current situation carries over, or we're presented with something similar down the line where we could have more of a one-to-one device to student ratio?
We are looking to do that one-to-one definitely at the secondary, but not K-12 yet.
I have a question. What about if things come back broken? Are we putting in like a stipulation on, I mean, we're handing out all these Chromebooks for students now. If we get them back and they're, broken or something, we're going to have to replace them. So do we have a replacement cost factored in here somewhere?
It's not exactly. Yes, there is actually a little bit line item of the maintenance. That is a general maintenance of technology devices. We do repair most of the Chromebooks in-house. However, we might have to order some parts, but it should not be a significant change. However, it is very early to say that. We'll see what comes back once everything settles down.
Okay, thanks. All right, Eric, you can continue. Thank you.
There was another question, and I think Dan is right. He just wants to know what's the cost of a Chromebook. What's the general cost?
The Chromebook, including the Chrome management license, cost us about $235 per device.
And Suzanne asks if we have any insurance that covers these devices.
We do not, because we mostly repair in-house. The insurance company would force us to buy the insurance on all Chromebooks, which would cost a lot more money. So right now, our breakage ratio is, I would say, less than 1% overall. However, it might change because now we rolled out more Chromebooks at home.
All right. Okay, thanks. Eric?
Okay. So that was interscholastic athletics and physical education. The next series of lines are special secondary programs, which consist of business education and student activities. The business education and career education budget codes are specific to the high school, and some of the costs include dues and publications for the business department, study guides and consumable text for our business law class, occupational outlook quarterly for our career education program, and assessment materials for formal vocational inventories that the business department does. The reduction in that line for the 2021 school year is a result of a textbook purchase that happened during 1920 that is not happening during 2021. The student activities account provides funds for students in 6 through 12, and it includes costs associated with a variety of different student activities at the middle school and the high school. It includes items such as homecoming at the high school, various assemblies that we do both in the middle school and the high school, costs associated with the National Honor Society, the newspaper programs in each of the buildings, as well as student planners at the middle school. And that line is flat for the 2021 school year. Any questions?
There are none.
Okay. So the next series of budget codes are instructional support at the building level. This includes the various codes that each of the building principals get, the general supply codes across the K-12 buildings, as well as the codes for conferences and meetings for professional development. The principal supervision codes include things like dues and publications for the building principal, travel allowance for the building principal, conferences for the building principal, costs associated with graduation and the moving up ceremonies at the high school and middle school. The slight increase that is in those lines, the building paper budgets are also included in the principal building codes. So that slight increase is due to some increases in paper. General supplies includes the maintenance of contracted equipment such as copy machines, various furniture lines. Previously, we had paper in the general supplies budget, but again, that was moved to the principal codes. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was that that something that changed from yesterday to today, and that occurs in the general supply line. Right now, it's showing an increase of $27,000. The reason why that is we actually had paper that was double budgeted, and it was in a building both in the general supply code as well as in the building principal code. So even though that shows an increase of $27,000, that has since been reduced by $28,000. So now if we were to reprint these series of budget codes and update them for you, that line would actually show a reduction of $765, which is just under 10%. So again, as we comb through these things, we identify things that might be duplicated or need to be updated. Finally, the conference and meetings codes includes the costs associated with conferences that staff are sent on in all 7 of the buildings to attend workshops and keep them up to date on curriculum changes. Any questions on any of these budget codes?
I do not see any.
Okay. So the next series of codes are education support services. These are the costs that are associated with our education support services department as well as our instructional support services departments. There are costs associated with various conferences and publications and the maintenance of our machines that scan the Regents exams. They also cover programs such as AIS, Academic Intervention Services, and ENL, English as a New Language. It also covers the administrative costs associated with the various costs for textbooks in students that attend non-public schools, in addition to providing textbooks for students that currently attend in-school district. We also have to provide textbooks to any students that reside in our school district that might attend Non-public schools, we had a slight increase in textbook requests this year from the non-public schools, so we ended up having to increase that line a little bit to accommodate for that that textbook increase. Similar to what I had spoken about earlier, when we apply for the state aid, this budget line also qualifies for the state aid and textbook money that I was speaking about. Any questions in education support services?
I do not see any.
Okay, so the next series of codes are instructional management. Instructional management are district-wide costs associated with a number of different unfunded mandates. Originally, one of the major lines that was under the 3000 code was our district-wide testing fee. And the reason why that was included in there was, for a very long time, we either scored in-house or we paid a company outside of the school district in order to be able to score those for us. Since then, the company that we've contracted with has come under the supervision of BOCES. So we actually do a BOCES COSER with Orange Ulster Bees in order to be able to have our assessments scored. So that reduction is now an elimination, because it ended up being, like I was talking about in the previous budget code, a duplicated code. So we were able to reduce the district-wide testing fee line significantly because it now is under a BOCES code. Community services includes costs associated with our various enrichment programs, the fall, spring, and summer enrichment programs. And finally, the curriculum development line includes costs associated with various professional development opportunities that we have with Orange Ulster BOCES, Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES, Southern Westchester BOCES. It includes various things and trainings like critical incident stress management, as well as the lead evaluator trainings that all of our administrators have to take in order to be certified administrators for our APPR plan. Any questions related to any of these codes?
I see none.
Okay. The next two slides are special education and PPS, and they have quite a few budget lines. So I went through the first series here, and then on the next slide is the next series of codes, and then the totals are going to be at the bottom of the next slide. So I'm going to start with the 7400 code, which is the district-wide tuition costs for foster children. Basically, any student who originated in the Monroe-Woodbury School District but is placed in foster care outside of the school district or in a neighboring school district, it is still the responsibility of Monroe-Woodbury in terms of paying the tuition costs for that student. Previously, the budget line was $100,000. However, when we did a review of the historical expenditures from this budget line, we realized that we've never paid anything more than $75,000 in recent years, and we felt it was appropriate to reduce that line by $25,000. The program Handicapped Children Code includes costs associated with providing services to students with special needs. This includes professional development for staff. It includes the travel costs of shared staff within the school district, as well as the travel costs to support students that are homebound or students that are in out-of-district placements. It includes fees for evaluations that we don't have the ability to perform within school district that we have to do with outside contractors. It also includes costs to maintain equipment used by staff and students within the department. The increase in this line, we were talking about Chromebooks and technology. The increase in this line is due to the replacement or upgrading of various technological equipment. We have to replace a number of Chromebooks and iPads that are currently used within the special education and PPS department, and that's what that increase is attributed to. The PPS admin code, it includes costs associated with running the special education and PPS departments. It includes their paper and copier costs, the various supplies and postage lines that they need in order to be able to meet all of the legal requirements within that department. And finally, the miscellaneous expenses for home instruction includes costs associated with providing instruction to students that might be either hospitalized or awaiting out-of-district placements, that might be on long-term suspension, or they might be out due to long-term medical conditions. Similar to the district-wide tuition line, the reduction is due to a review of the historical expenditures from this line, and we've never had any expenditures more than $45,000, so we felt comfortable making that reduction.
Hey, Eric, just so that
Yep.
you know, I think Lorraine had a question about this past year's summer enrichment.
Mhm.
Lorraine, want to ask that question?
Oh, I may have missed when you had talked about the summer enrichment.
Yep.
Is there an increase for next year since last year's summer enrichment was on somewhat of a modified schedule because we had the field restoration?
Yeah, I believe that our plan is to have the programs run in a similar way, where basically what we did was we moved the summer enrichment program from the middle school to Pine Tree for a number of different reasons, because programs were taken out of the high school because they weren't going to have air conditioning and things like that. But I think that we got a lot of positive feedback from people with regards to some changes that we made in scheduling and the way that the program is going to be offered. Additionally, what we did was we kind of separated the enrichment portion of the various music and art and theater programs. They were the ones that went to Pine Tree, and the athletic programs that were run by our athletic teams actually transitioned to the athletic office. And I believe that the program is going to operate in a very similar fashion. At least that's what we're planning right now for this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Chris has a question.
My question was the home instruction line. I mean, I know that home instruction constitutes a different home instruction than what we're doing now with coronavirus.
Correct.
But there may be some overlap. Does that line number? I mean, we have 85,000. You're cutting it almost in half there. Will this late spring semester, let's say, cost us more money in home instruction because no one is in school? And then will that be enough for next year? I just don't want to be under budgeted
Right.
if we didn't have enough money this year for it.
Right. Great question. Actually, we are talking about two separate things. Even though all of our students right now are at home receiving instruction from their teacher, this is a different budget line, because even when we are up and running in our normal fashion and kids are able to physically attend school, if a student is unable to attend school, we are still required to provide instruction for that student. So if a student, for example, has an injury or an illness and they're hospitalized for a period of time, what we do is we contract tutoring in the hospital in order for the student to be able to continue to receive an education, and the teachers send staff to the tutors in the hospital.
Right, but you're deducting that like a lot. Like,
Right.
Are we just guessing that we haven't had that much? Or I'm just curious to know how we went.
Right.
Is there some sort of graph that we go by every year and how the drop off is so much?
So we have reports that we're able to run at the end of the year. So we went back and we did a historical analysis of how much money we've spent from the 6,600 line over the past, I think, 4 years. And not once did we come close to even spending $45,000. So that's still a conservative amount, and we felt that that reduction would still leave us enough wiggle room in order to be able to accommodate for a possible increase.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So the next budget, the next series of budget codes are a continuation of special education and PPS, and they include our various tuition lines. The HC tuition line overall includes codes that's the 7,500 line, includes the codes that are the tuition costs for all students in a variety of different out-of-district placements. And basically the 7,500 line is broken down into 4 main budget codes. If you looked at the actual reports that were uploaded into board docs, you would see 4 main budget codes. The 4 budget codes include, one is the HC tuition line itself, which is tuition costs for students that attend approved private schools such as Center for Discovery, the Summit School, Clearview, and things like that. There's a minimal change in that budget code. The second budget line within that 7,500 code is called Tuition Other Public. And previously, the 7,500 line only had 3 codes in it. It was HC tuition, Tuition Other Public, and the BOCES tuition line. However, the tuition other public line was inclusive of both students who are Monroe-Woodbury residents who we contract with outside school districts in order for them to be able to receive an education, non-BOCES and non-private schools. Also included in that line are the expenses of us providing related services for any student who attends a private school within Monroe-Woodbury. Basically, any private school within the boundaries of Monroe-Woodbury, if there's a special education student in that building, we're required to provide special education services. And all of those items were underneath that same budget code. And it was difficult to track what the expenses were. So we separated it into two codes, the tuition other public, which now if you looked at it in WinCap is only the contract tuition cost that we pay for other school districts for students to receive services. Then the second code is tuition related services, where any special education student who attends those, who attends a private school, but receives some degree of special education related service, whether it be counseling or speech or anything, Monroe-Woodbury is required to provide that. Those two codes, the tuition other public and the tuition related services, even though they are fully budgeted by the school district, a number of students that we end up having to provide services to actually have the ability to be able to be billed. So for example, if you're a student that resides in another school district, but you attend a private school in Monroe-Woodbury, we are required to provide the service to that student, and then we bill the district of residence that the student comes from. So even though we budget for the full amount, we do see revenue for some of those students. Same thing for the tuition of the public schools. There are a number of group homes that are within Monroe-Woodbury, and the students are placed there by the Office of Persons with Disabilities. And by being placed in that group home, we have the ability to bill back the district of origin of the students that would receive services within that budget line. The third line in the 7500 code is the HC BOCES line, which includes the tuition costs of all of our students who attend special education programs at Orange Ulster BOCES, Rockland BOCES, PNW BOCES, Southern Westchester BOCES. The increase in this line is due to a net increase overall of 4 students that are being projected in the budget for next year that are currently not in the budget, as well as a 4% increase in the tuition costs by BOCES in general. The next line is the 6900 line, which is the OCC/BOCES code. This includes the tuition costs for students that attend the Career and Technical Education Program at Orange Ulster BOCES. The reduction is due to, similar to some of the other lines that I spoke about, the reduction is due to the review of historical expenditures in this line, where we have, even though we have a budget of 110 students that have attended the OCC CTEC programs at Orange Ulster BOCES, we have not spent anything over the $1.116 million range. So we felt that we would be able to reduce that line by $160,000 and still continue to send the same number of students to the various programs at the CTEC program. The 6000 code is the district-wide guidance code. The guidance code includes costs associated with providing our guidance services, which include postage at the high school level for college transcripts and college applications. It includes fees for the job fair and college fairs that we host, various supplies and software costs. The increase in this line is due to the an increase in fees for the Naviance software that we have at the middle school and the high school. And finally, you have health services, which is the services that we use through the various health offices and nursing offices throughout the school district. Any questions on those?
Yeah, Lorraine had a question about what the group home was about.
Sure. We have a number of facilities that are group homes within the school district, and basically they are approved by New York State, and they are able to provide services for students that are placed there by OPWDD, and that could be students from anywhere throughout the state. And basically, OPWD places them in these group homes. And because that group home is within the boundaries of the Monroe-Woodbury School District, just like with students that attend the non-public schools, we are required to provide special education services to those students. However, you know, wherever the program is that those students are placed in, we do have the ability to bill back the district of origin, so that if the student originated in, say, New York City, we bill back the Department of Education for the services for that student because OPWDD places them within the boundaries of the Monroe-Woodbury School District.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand.
Got it. We still are required, because it's an expenditure of the school district, we are still required to have that money allocated for in the budget. In the end, it's revenue that comes in the form of either billing or aid.
This is just the first time I had ever heard you mention that, so I thought I found it interesting.
It's fairly new. This is only something that has happened within the last few years that this is
I
starting
can
to pop
imagine.
up for us.
I understand why. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Eric, that's it.
All right. Yep. And the next series of slides, Patrick actually has some updates regarding the entire budget. Patrick, you there?
Yes, I am. Next slide, Eric. Thanks.
You got it.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. So I just wanted to give everyone a quick update on where we are with state aid, and literally approximately 90 minutes ago, the state aid runs were made public, and I updated this slide. And you know, just by way of review, so much has changed since our last meeting on March 11th. It's hard to fathom everything that's changed. At that meeting, we talked about the governor's executive budget proposal, and our expectation was that we would receive a bit more state aid than the governor originally proposed. This slide shows to the right, our 1920 state aid budget, and that was about 53.4 million. The next column with 2021 budget is the governor's proposal for state aid to education. So that was an increase of about 1.3 million to the district, and we expected a bit more because that's typically how the cycle runs. We've talked about this, where the New York State Ed Department Board of Regents goes high with their proposal for state aid. The governor comes in low, and they generally, the governor and the legislature agree somewhere in the middle. So a lot's changed since January 1st or beginning of January, early part of January, where the governor made his budget proposal, obviously. And at this point, I received these state aid runs, or we received the state aid runs, and I've included them in the column labeled 2020-21 budget at 4/1/2020. So the notable item, I won't go through every item, but the notable item is foundation aid. You notice that's the same as it was for the current year. So it's frozen at the current year levels, which is, you know, tough. The governor backed off entirely on his proposal to roll 10 expense-based aids into foundation aid. You recall I discussed that at our last meeting. So now that column has a number in each category. And so at this point, we're expecting the budget to budget change to be about $814,000 increase, or 1.5%. However, there's a big caveat here, which is what concerns me. There is now a new adjustment to state aid called the pandemic adjustment, and there's another adjustment called federal CARES restoration. And you notice I have that on the bottom. And what that basically is if you recall the gap elimination adjustment about 8 or 10 years ago, when the Great Recession hit, and the gap was the gap in the state budget. And so what the state does with state aid is they run the ordinary formulas, and then they have a deduction and adjustment at the bottom. So, you know, we're sort of familiar with that. As a joke, I was almost going to add a line that said gap elimination adjustment 2, and then this came in, and it has a name, the pandemic adjustment. And so we're going to have to look at this much more closely. Like I said, this is literally just happening today. almost in real time. But my understanding is that we would have an adjustment or a cut up to 1.27 million with the potential for some restoration. So we don't know what the cut will be next year. For next year, be some sort of mid-year cut or adjustment. It's sort of difficult to function and make projections and budget with this kind of uncertainty. What I will do is, because it's literally just happened within the last couple of hours, we'll fold this in, get more information, and relay more about this to the board in the next week or so, or days even. But what I did going forward is I'm using the 1.5% increase as sort of our baseline for the next series of slides, which is a high-level overview of revenue, the revenue budget.
Patrick, before you get into that, we have a few questions. Dawn says, so we lose $500,000. Is that you want to remark on that?
That's true, and with the potential to lose another 1.27 million next year. So the one column that's labeled 2021 budget at 4.1, that's where it stands now. And so it is a reduction from the governor's proposal, with the potential for further reductions depending on, the how things go, I think, for the state next year. So.
Okay. Dan asks, what is our current foundation aid owed to the district so far? I guess the cumulative, what is it, about 700, what is it, 75 million? No.
Well, yeah, cumulative, it's probably a little north of that, John. It's probably more like 90. And so what you're referring to is if foundation aid had originally run and functioned the way it was intended to be a more equitable aid formula. And so every year, and this started almost as soon as it was instituted, they had to short districts. And some districts, believe it or not, received more than they should. Some, like us, received less and far less, because what they would do is freeze it and then sort of tweak the formula. So, at this point, it's probably somewhere around 92 million, the cumulative shortage to Monroe-Woodbury over the last 10 years or so. I used to report on this, if you recall, and I stopped, sort of even paying attention to it, because it doesn't seem like they're ever going to really get to.
We're never going to get it. No district in the state's going to get that.
That's right.
Stacy asks, are we concerned that Cuomo has said he will have to make major cuts to the New York State budget in the area of education?
Yeah, I am concerned. And the next slide, Eric talked about some of the cuts we made in the appropriations area. This next slide is sort of a snapshot. I just wanted to point out some of the budget codes that have been reduced since our March 11th meeting. And what we did is collectively just went through every area of the budget and just squeeze things down if we felt we could, and if it was appropriate to do that. You look at that slide, the area of utilities, we made cuts to sewer fees, electric, water, telephone. We cut the security equipment budget. It was when last time we spoke, it was proposed to be $210,000. We cut it to $40,000, $170,000 cut. You'll notice a fairly big cut there labeled breakage retirees. So breakage is the difference in salary between a veteran employee and a new employee. And we sometimes leave that breakage within the budget as a contingency, because again, we're projecting what we think the salary of the new person may be. It's not always what we think it will be, depending on the experience level of the hire, et cetera. But what we needed to do to get the budget to a reasonable level was just really sweep and scrub all of that right out of the budget. The other notable areas, things I just wanted to point out, a little further down under 5510, 55 is the function code for transportation. You notice I have trans bus drivers a deduct of $342,000. That is not cuts to drivers or anything like that, or existing positions. We use a tool called position control, and I've talked about this in the past, where there can be vacancies in the budget, and the vacancies sometimes are created because of churn, people being hired or resigning, et cetera, et cetera. And what we did was we identified vacancies that we thought were potentially not real vacancies, and we just swept all that out of the budget, as I said. Same thing with trans bus attendants. So wherever we identified an area in the budget where there may have been a contingency, we eliminated it, to some degree. And, I think Eric addressed some of this when he was talking about the cuts we made, the instructional cuts we made, the area of special ed and other areas. In some ways, it's a risk. We're taking a bit of a risk. But I felt like we collectively felt like we needed to do this based on everything that's happening. We really had no choice. I mean, the good news is that we're not proposing to lay anybody off. We're replacing folks that are retiring or resigning. So we're maintaining our programs, which is, the good news. The other final piece here I wanted to point out on this slide, under garage building equipment, we're eliminating $70,000, which was the bus snow clearing device that we were proposing to buy. Yeah. And we also made a fairly substantial cut in contract transportation. So this is the budget code that we charge expenses associated with providing transportation to residents who attend non-public schools. And so we've been seeing some big increases year over year in this line. And the line for this current year is about $952,000. We were proposing an increase, and we discussed this at the March 11th meeting, to about 1.6 million because of the bid, which we're currently doing with our contractor. So there's a bit of uncertainty there. We've pulled that back a little bit because I feel like we were playing it a little safe, and I think we don't have that luxury right now based on everything that's going on. So
Patrick,
that slide. Are there other questions?
Yeah, Dan, Don, do you had a question about allowing us to increase the percentage of funds for reserve? Right, we can put into reserve. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've heard discussions at the state level with Como saying he may want the opportunity to make adjustments each quarter because they don't know what their revenue is going to be, and I understand that. At the same time, the state limits us as to how diligent we can be at preparing for situations that, we may have shortfalls. They limit us to, I believe it's 4%. So I didn't know if those discussions come up or if they have been had, that as a school district, they adjust that 4% so that we can better prepare for things like pandemics and budget shortfalls and things of that nature.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments, John?
Well, Lorraine says there might be a substantial savings if students aren't returning to school, like electric and gas and diesel, and and there will be budget lines with monies left, probably scattered in certain ways throughout the entire budget.
And I kind of addressed that in the next slide. I think with this closure, there will be some savings, but I don't think they're as substantial as many people might believe.
Oh.
I think there's savings in certain consumable lines, commodities. There'll be some savings in the area of contract transportation because we're not paying for services that we're not receiving. Yet we do continue to pay our employees, based on some of the executive orders and things. There may be some utility savings, But if you see in this slide the proposed revenue budget, and I'm showing the revenue equal to the appropriations, the budget triangle above, and down below that there's a high level schedule, revenue schedule, and on the left under the revenue column is property taxes, state aid, miscellaneous revenue, reserves, and assigned fund balance. So those are the major categories of revenue. And I won't grind through every one, but if you look off to the right there, it shows the dollar change year over year, and then the percentage change. So in the area of property taxes, we're proposing to levy at the maximum allowable levy, which is just a little over 2%, 2.07%. We are, as I said earlier, we're expecting right now, it could be different tomorrow or even later tonight, to receive an increase in state aid of about 1.52%. The most miscellaneous revenue we're projecting is going to be down a bit, about 106,000. That can fluctuate year over year. It's a rather small piece of the revenue budget. What we're proposing is an increase in the use of reserves of $375,000. So current year, we were proposing to use $225,000 in reserves. I think we need to tap into our reserves for next year to the tune of $600,000 right now as things stand. The next line is assigned fund balance. So assigned, they used to call this appropriated fund balance. It's taking either our 4% fund balance that Don was referring to earlier, or a surplus, which is what I think we will have. And I'll explain this a little bit more. Surplus from the current year, from savings because of the closure, and apply that to next year's budget to balance the budget. So we're proposing an increase of $600,000 in that area. So we'd be assigning or appropriating $2.5 million to next year's budget.
Dan has a question. Considering the misfortune we're going through, actually, he wonders if there's an opportunity to secure a future diesel contract to fuel oil with prices falling the way they are.
There may be, yeah. What we generally do is we're part of a large bid out of Rockland Bosse's for oil delivery. It's actually just for delivery, the delivery component, because I believe the price of the commodity fluctuates, so they don't lock in. But that could be something where we yield some savings in the future for sure. I mean, there's so much uncertainty actually across the board going forward. We just don't know what may happen.
Patrick, can I just jump in there for a second?
Sure.
Because Lorraine's question about will we have additional funds, if students still go back to school? The other thing I heard is that the governor may take away some of our state aid and transportation for that specific reason. There may be a reduction this year.
Right, I did hear that as well.
Yeah, so they're looking at what we haven't expended, and they may reduce what they planned on giving us. Additionally, if we don't use all of the monies that we had appropriated for BOCES, that will impact us monies in the future. Am I correct?
Yes, yep. Because the way, if you recall, the way the expense-based aids work is it's what we receive next year is based on what we spend this year. And right now it was based on a projection. So if because we're not experiencing the same kind of expenses or costs in transportation, one would think our aid next year would be lower than our projection. On the other hand, we are continuing to pay some of our employees, so it may not be as significant as we think. I think certainly in the area of contract transportation, there'll be some savings, but a lot of this we haven't fully been able to sort of flesh out and get our arms around yet.
Dan asks, is there a way to spend this money on durable items to maintain our funding level?
Well, one of the things we were talking about doing in the current year is buying some of the things that we need, like Chromebooks, like repairs and small renovation projects and things, doing that now in this year's budget when there may be, some savings that we need for certain types of items, and we may also use for an assignment of fund balance to next year's budget. So yeah, I think we are thinking about that, and we're going to move forward on some of those things.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the board? Patrick, are you through?
Yeah, the only thing I would say, John, finally, is it's a really fluid situation. I wasn't exaggerating when I said that this just came in, and I was updating this just before this meeting. So, there's more to find out tomorrow and the next day, and we'll report out as new information's available.
Well, it's every year is amusing because you're setting most of your budget before you find out what the state is going to give you. And this year, I mean, it's going to be a continuously moving target. So my sympathies to you and your Patrick.
And I think what we're going to have to do next year and this year is we're going to have to be flexible and nimble, and we're going to have to watch things more closely. And if we need to make adjustments, and I don't mean, lay people off or anything, but I mean, if, districts do this at some point, we say, hey, look, the trend is going in the wrong direction. The pandemic adjustment looks as though it's going to happen, then, we would have to pull back on certain types of discretionary expenditures.
Right. Dan has a question.
Yeah, Patrick, with the governor saying he might decide to do budgeting and adjust things quarter to quarter, we don't have that luxury of changing things around as flexible as he thinks he can. How far behind the 8 ball could this actually be putting us?
Well, I don't think it will. I don't think it'll be devastating to us. What would generally happen is it would if, let's say, we got far less revenue than we had anticipated, and we didn't under expend the budget, we just couldn't. What would generally happen, that it would start to cut into our fund balance, right? So our 4% fund balance, which we're holding somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think around $7.5 million. And so we would finish the year with either less surplus than we otherwise would have, and surplus meaning above and beyond the 4%, or it would actually start to tap into our 4%. I mean, when districts get in trouble is when they start to burn through reserves, burn through their fund balance, and it's like a fuse. Eventually, it just runs out unless they turn the tide. So we're certainly not anywhere near that. We have, we coming into this year had very healthy reserves. We had set money aside for our capital reserve, et cetera. And it's just going to require us to monitor things more closely. And like I said, be nimble and flexible enough to make adjustments quarter to quarter, as needed.
All right. I think that's it, Patrick. Eric?
John, yep.
Thank you very much. Very, very good. We now, items 6 on the agenda, we have a corrective action plan resulting from the external audit. Patrick, you want to talk about that? I can't hear you, Patrick.
Sorry about that. Yeah, there's actually 2 corrective action plans.
We like to put Eric on mute, but not you.
Yeah, it's accomplished. He's on mute. I can see that. So there's 2 corrective action plans. One for our external audit, which occurs over the summer, and typically in October, mid-October, the board approves or accepts the audit report. So this year, because of the cyber incident, everything was pushed way back. We have 90 days to identify or come up with a way of addressing any concerns or improvement opportunities the auditor identifies through their management letter. And, there was a handful of things that they pointed out. Nothing overly significant. One was the continued use of purchase orders for ordering food and things through the school lunch fund, which is, something we've been working on and we've made, big improvements in. The other was the fund balance for the school lunch fund. So the fund balance can't exceed 3 months average expenditures. So we were approaching that limit, which is not a bad problem to have. Just a few years ago, we had too little fund balance in the school lunch fund. So what we're doing is we're not increasing meal prices to address that. We're going to buy some new equipment related to the point of sale system, which is the checkout system for the cafeterias. There were a handful of other kind of smallish things. So that's the external audit corrective action plan. And then the corrective action plan related to the state controller's audit. So I talked about that at previous meetings. And basically, we just go through everything that they identified in their report and essentially come up with a practice or a protocol to address it and remediate it. And that's what we've done.
All right. Do I have are there any questions? Do I have a motion to accept the corrective action plan resulting from the 2018-19 external audit? We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, right? Yes or yay or nay? All right. It is passed. Do we have a motion to accept the corrective action plan resulting from the New York State Office of the Comptroller's audit? We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, right? Yay. So carried. Both are carried. Do you want, Elsie, do you want to talk about the revised student calendar? Evidently not.
Yes, no, I do. I was just trying to find my button. No, I just wanted to say that was in direct response to the executive order that the governor passed on Friday, stating that all school districts had to remain open and that we had to continue to provide food and ensure that people in your community were in connection with other agencies for childcare. So since that was an executive order, we were required as a school district to remove a spring break from our calendar. We're going to await to see what the governor has to say in a week or so, because the executive order only closes school through April 14th. And as of today, we're scheduled to return back to school on April 15th, although we all know that that is very, very unlikely.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt the revised 2019-20 student calendar? We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? So carried. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 11th, 2020 regular meeting? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? So carried. Committee reports. Chris, anything on policy?
No, we don't have anything. We are not able to meet. So until that time, we're just hanging out and waiting to see when we can have actual meeting.
Can I just jump into that, Chris? I'm thinking that maybe the committee can get together via Google Meet, and maybe we'll do some work next week.
That would be great. Just put it together. I have no problem with that. I had given Donna a few questions on some things that BOCES had sent out that said that we had to revise and look at. So I would really like to sit down and even if Donna could meet with me and you, let's just say for the first time, and get what I gave her reviewed, and then we could try to get a Google Hangout like this with the committee. I'd like that.
Okay, perfect. We'll set that up with Donna.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dawn, I presume visitation in Orange County School Boards Association is lying fallow for the moment.
Yes, I have not attended any virtual meetings. Nothing's been set up yet, other than email communications that have been plentiful.
Okay. Thank you. Don, we've sort of gone through the audit. Anything on audit or facilities?
No, Patrick covered the audit. Facilities, there's nothing going on with that with the shutdown. So.
Okay. Thank you. Personnel, Matt.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. It's been a crazy time across the district, obviously, in HR as well. But with all that said, I respectfully request approval for the items listed under personnel.
Do we have any questions about those? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor, write aye or yes. So carried. Let me get down to, well, it would be business and financial. Patrick?
Yes, John, I also respectfully request approval of the items under the agenda in the business financial section, which include our standard monthly financial reports for February and one donation to North Main Elementary. I think the amount is $40 from, let me see, I'm trying to get back to the, to see who the donation is from. $20 from Your Cause LLC for New York Life.
Every little bit helps.
That's right.
All right. Do we have a motion on business and financial? It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? I guess not. All those in favor? So carried. Do we have a motion to approve the arrangement on the recommended placements made by the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Education as in the agenda? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. Reports by board and central office. Chris.
I don't have anything to report. I want to just thank everyone for the presentation. I know this is tough times. I know budgeting is going to be very tough for Patrick with Cuomo changing things all the time. So I just want to wish everyone the best. Stay safe, wash your hands, and hopefully this ends soon. Have a good night.
Thank you. Dawn. Dawn?
Sorry. Yeah, I don't even know if I can adequately convey everything I'm feeling right now, but I will say thank you to so many people, essential workers, bringing it local to everybody here in Orange County, and our administrators and cabinet, Elsie, everyone's been amazing, and thank you for all that you do. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Don?
Yeah, a special shout out to the teachers. I know this has been quite challenging to go from 0 to 60 online. So I'm sure there's a little bit of stress involved in that, as well as the kids and most of all the parents. But I'm very happy with some of the changes that are happening in the fourth quarter. So, you know, with that being said, I think we're moving in the right direction. It's going to be a much better fourth quarter.
Thank you. Suzanne, there you are.
Yeah, I would first like to thank all the presenters, Patrick and Eric. You're doing an amazing job under very difficult circumstances. I'd also like to thank our teachers and want to wish everyone in our district good health and hopefully a quick resolution to this situation. I know it's very stressful for our special needs kids and all our kids being housebound like this. And I wish everybody stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. A shout out to Maeve, who isn't with us tonight. Hope all is well. Donna, you have anything?
I just want to say thank you to Elsie and all the assistant superintendents and to the board for all your support. And I just wish everybody the best and to stay well.
Thank you. Bargoff.
Couple of things. So the last couple of weeks, we've been providing an online professional development to our teachers. As of this afternoon, we had about 1,748 participants. So I think the online PD is taking a really good process, and everybody's taking the advantage of that. We also able to help about 200 students and parents via our online help desk form. So if any parents or students have any issues or any questions about how to log in or how to use any specific solution, feel free to reach out to us via the help desk form on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric, excuse me.
This is a tough part of the Board of Ed meeting because usually it's the time when we get to highlight the awesome stuff that's happening across the school district. And, you know, it's hard not having anything to really speak about. One amazing thing that did happen, I was able to participate in the parade around the school district, and I have to tell you, it was on an amazing day where the weather was spectacular, and it was great seeing people outside and just waving and smiling on their faces and trying to make the best out of a difficult situation. We're a couple weeks into it, and as Elsie said, it sounds like we're going to have a couple weeks left, and you know, I wish everybody the best, and you know, keep at it, and you know, we look forward to seeing everybody real soon. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, I just want to echo what everyone else has said, and you know, thank the staff, everyone. We've carried on, we've soldiered on, and I especially would like to thank the food service employees who distributed meals right from the beginning, right from the get-go, and really appreciate what they're doing, and just hope everyone takes care and stays well.
All right. Thank you. Matt?
All right, and I'm going to just follow up with everything else. You know, every office remains really busy for the most part. And, you know, for us in HR, we're continuing to interview people. It's a whole new world because it's all done virtually now as opposed to the meet and greet and the handshake. None of that is happening, but our administrators have started those processes, which has been successful so far. I just want to let people know that the HR and payroll offices, there are people there, not in the physical offices, but we are working hard to answer questions. I know there are questions that continuously come up regarding payroll and benefits. So please email those questions to us and we will get back to you. And I do want to echo what Patrick said, particularly about food service, but I also want to just add, our MCC staff has been tremendous in terms of getting devices into people's hands, because it's not an easy task. They have to go into buildings, clean them, and then get them ready. And then our custodians who have to end up cleaning up after everybody leaves at the end of the day. So just a big shout out to everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lorraine?
Yes, I'd like to thank Patrick and Eric for presentation. Thanks to all the teachers, the administration, to everyone. This is definitely a very strange time that we're in right now. So much uncertainty. I want to say thank you to all the essential workers that are out there. Prayers to all the people who may be suffering. The only thing that I get that could be positive from this is that there is more family time. So cherish all your moments and be careful and be safe.
Thank you. Stacy?
Yes, thank you. I just want to reiterate also what Eric said, that I know this is one of my favorite times of being able to go around and see everything that the students have done, and we get to comment on it. And unfortunately, we're not physically there, but I want to give a big shout out to everybody who's been posting the videos. I know Carol and Prudence work hard to get stuff on the website, on the Twitter pages, on Facebook. all of our athletes that have put videos out. I believe the baseball team, the softball team, the lacrosse team did ones. I think it's great. Keep the spirits up, and thank you to everybody behind the scenes that's working really hard. I know there's a lot of things going on that we might not see happening, but there's a lot of people working really hard to try to get through this, and I just want to say thank you. Be safe.
Thank you. Anthony.
Yeah, I just want to echo a lot of the same sentiments. I mean, thanks to Elsie, thanks to the cabinet, thanks to the teachers and all the staff for all the hard work you've done. Everybody's gone above and beyond. I want to thank the students and the parents for really stepping up and having patience with us and understanding that this is a really difficult time. And, you know, everyone is just putting their best foot forward and trying to do what they have to do. Just want to say, stay safe and wash your hands and be well.
Thank you. Dan?
I was invited to visit with a couple of Monroe-Woodbury students in the dining room. It was great to see them working on assignments and being involved in the education process. But really, I want to thank all the people of the district for stepping up, for, you know, going with the flow and trying to get things done the best as possible in these strange, weird times. Other than that, support your local businesses out there. There are people struggling. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay 6 feet away from everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Elsie?
Yeah, I also want to echo everything that everyone has said. Our MCC, our food service workers, our custodians, our hospital workers, our first responders, our teachers, the board who's been working behind the scenes. Just a big thank you to everyone. I agree, stay safe, adhere to social, what's the word now I'm thinking? Social distancing, yes. Make sure that you adhere to that. We will see you soon. We are all working really hard, and when school opens, we'll be back here to welcome you back and attend all the things that we plan to do. So just a big thank you.
Right. Thank you. Most people have practiced social distancing with me for a long time, so not very much has changed. Actually, of course, as you all know, this is a sea change. I mean, this is something that is was going to require a lot of adjustment. And so my thoughts are out there to the entire community. Everybody's working hard to try and see what they can do positively in this dislocating time. And I thank the parents and the students who are not in school, and they're stuck at home, sometimes for good, sometimes not, you know, getting along with brothers and sisters. But we're all working to advance not only the academics, but your life and your mental and physical health. And we're here for you. And thanks to everybody who works at the Monroe-Woodbury district, all teachers, staff, and everyone. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor, put down aye. Aye. We need a couple more. All right, fine. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.